Today, I'm going to share with you the number one thing that people miss and get wrong when they're trying to manifest an aligned life of purpose. I'm going to share with you what most manifestation teachers and law of attraction teachers miss. When I was 29 years old, my life was a mess. I've shared this story before, so I'll be brief. But 8 years prior, my husband and I had moved from Michigan to Montana. We had gotten married, gotten our first apartment, and found out that we were pregnant with our first child, just to have him lose his job. We went hungry for a few months, struggled to keep the lights on, before finally having our car repossessed and being forced to leave our apartment. We lived with my husband's family for 2.5 years, trying to get back on our feet. Finally, my husband got a new job that was much better pay, with a promise of a pay raise coming soon. My at-home business of doing childcare was doing well. We moved out of his parents' house into an apartment just for both of us to lose our jobs right after finding out that we were pregnant by that time with our third child. On top of that, my husband slipped on the ice and shattered his leg, leaving me sick with pregnancy to pack up and move back into his parents' house, mostly by myself. It was one of the darkest times of my life. I remember after we finally got out of his parents' house again and into low-income housing, there's this feeling of life could not get any worse. That time in my life propelled me to look outside of the boundaries of what I had been taught was true. And I discovered Joe Dispenza on YouTube, and I was desperate enough for answers that I was finally willing to look outside of my Christian upbringing to see what somebody else might have to say. I've shared the story about how he explained manifestation principles in a way that was palatable for me at the time. He talked about the metaphysics and the science behind how all this works and made it seem really logical to me. And within the next several years, absolutely everything about our lives changed. We were out of low-income housing into our first home that we owned. By the end of the next year, I started 2 ministries that had been on my heart. We went from $0 a month to doing extremely well financially, but even more importantly than that, I was living in extreme joy and bliss. In order to sustain these manifestations in my outer world, I had to sustain a really high vibration of energy. And after a while, it started to feel like a heavy burden that I was trying to hold up. And things started to slip. And when I got hit with really stressful life situations, anxiety started to creep back in. And over the course of the next several years, as I got hit with more and more of just stressful life situations, my anxiety grew and grew and grew until it had completely taken over my life. And I could no longer access that joy-filled, expanded, blissful, fearless state of being that I had created when I was doing Joe Dispenza's meditations. And now I understand, looking back on it, that when I started doing his meditations, I shifted instantly into joy and bliss. And it felt so good to me because I had spent most of my life feeling limited, lacking, depressed, anxious, insecure, fearful of the future. But I was never taught how to handle the lower energies, all those things that I just listed. I was never taught that those things are going to constantly come up. That's just part of life. And that you have to know how to integrate them and how to work with them, or else they will block your system. And so the number one mistake that I see so many manifestation teachers and spiritual teachers making is that they completely take the humanity out of the spiritual experience. Or another way of saying this is that they completely take manifestation teachings out of the wider context of the entire spiritual awakening that we have to have living in these human bodies. And so there's so many people out there teaching, if you want to manifest your dream life, you need to do this and this and this so that you can raise your vibration and attract these things to you. And you are not going to be able to maintain that state, that high vibrational state of love and bliss and gratitude that is required to manifest your dream life if you don't do the spiritual work. if you don't integrate the transcendent and the spiritual into the humanity, if you don't learn to work with those lower vibrational energies, if you don't follow the natural path that spiritual evolution is supposed to follow. And over the last several years, through my own experience and through downloads that I have received in my meditation practice, what I have done is I've been able to put together in a really condensed and understandable way a path that people can follow to naturally stimulate a spiritual awakening that will propel them into this higher state of love and bliss, will propel them into an opening of the heart, into a spiritual awakening. And I'm going to give you the steps right now. The ancient Hindus understood something that modern science is now beginning to discover, that we are actually a toral field, or as the bioenergetic doctors call it, a biofield of energy. Religion calls it spirit, metaphysics calls it consciousness, call it whatever you want, but you are a field of energy that is anchored into the human body. The cosmic energy comes down through your crown, through each of the 7 energy centers, and anchors you to the physical in your root center. And then your biofield or your toral field will come out and around and down, out and around and down. And this is what creates your field, your spirit. In order for a spiritual awakening to occur, what needs to happen is that that energy that is anchored into your root center needs to travel up the spine through one energy center at a time until it reaches the crown of your head. And as each energy center is unlocked, so to speak, you will access a higher state of consciousness. So as the energy travels up your spine, you reach higher and higher states of consciousness. So the heart center is actually where the first major spiritual awakening usually takes place. And that's what we're going to focus on right now. We're going to focus on the journey that the energy takes from the root center up to the heart, where people naturally experience a spiritual awakening. So the root center is like your roots. It's the place where you receive energy from the earth. It's where your cosmic energy is grounded, where you are anchored into the 3D plane. The root center is an outward facing center, meaning that it's focused on something in your environment. It's focused on safety and stability in your environment. An imbalance in your root center will cause you to feel unsafe, which will lead to some version of the feeling of fear. The emotion needs to be integrated and expressed in a healthy way in order for the energy to move up into the sacral center. When the root center is balanced, you will believe on a subconscious level that you are safe. That will be the program that is running in your subconscious mind. You'll feel feelings of surrender and trust naturally. You'll believe that the universe is a safe place and that God or source is benevolent. You'll believe that life is working out in your favor at all times, that you are protected. Once the root center is balanced, the energy is free to move up to the sacral center, which is about your relationship with yourself. It's like the womb where you nourish yourself. Once your basic survival needs are met and safety is no longer an issue, consciousness moves naturally to issues of self-love and self-worth. For many years, I did not understand this. I thought that the heart center was where we dealt with issues of self-love and self-worth. But I've come to understand in my own spiritual practice that the sacral center, which is in the womb area in the female body, is the place of nourishment. It's where we turn inward to look at ourselves, to nourish ourselves and give ourselves what we need. Until this happens, the heart center actually can't be open because the heart center is about giving and receiving love from others. The sacral center is an inward-facing center that deals with your relationship to yourself. When it is unbalanced, you will feel unworthy, which will lead to some variation of the feeling of shame. These feelings have to be integrated and expressed in a healthy way in order to move up into the solar plexus center. When the sacral center is balanced, you will feel on a deep subconscious level that you are worthy. You will feel deep feelings of childlike innocence, worthiness, self-love. and nourishment. You'll feel like you are cherished beyond measure and worthy of anything good that life has to offer. Moving up further, the solar plexus center is about your social relationship with others in the sense of social standing and power and influence in social environments. It is like your personal sun powering your self-expression and interactions in the outer world. It is an outward-facing center that deals with power in your environment. When this center is imbalanced, you will feel disempowered, which will lead to some form of the feeling of anger. These feelings have to be integrated and expressed in a healthy way in order to move up into the heart. When the solar plexus center is balanced, you will feel powerful on a deep subconscious level. You will feel confident, respected, self-assured within yourself. You'll respect your own boundaries. You will feel respect and honor for yourself enough that you don't have to demand and force those things from others. Moving up into the heart center. The heart center is another inward-facing center that is about your relationship to yourself. At the heart, you begin to enter oneness or unity consciousness, in which you understand and experience that all of creation is part of the self. The great self, capital S. You open up to give and receive with ease, understanding that there is no lack in the universe. How could there be lack when everything is a part of you? The heart center is where you begin to live from abundance naturally. And this is what I got wrong and what so many other people miss. I tried to force myself to feel the feelings that naturally occur in the heart center, feelings of expansiveness and abundance, when I hadn't worked through the 3 lower energy centers properly. So I was trying to manifest my dream life, this abundant, expansive, inspired life, while suppressing my fear, shame, and anger. Thinking if I feel those vibrations at all, then I'm gonna lose what I've created. And so these emotions were stuck in my system, throwing everything out of balance, running my subconscious programs. On a subconscious level, I was trying to manifest my dream life while suppressing my fear of being alone and my anger at everybody who left me when I deconstructed my faith. I was sending 2 completely different signals to the universe, and I could only keep that up for so long before it came crashing down. Here's the thing. As long as we live in the 3-dimensional world, we are going to encounter challenges, okay? That's just part of life here. It's part of being human. Guys, we are all afraid to some extent. None of us know what we're doing. Most of us are making it up as we go. Feeling fear, doubting ourselves, feeling anger, all of these things are just part of the experience, and they are absolutely divine. Feeling afraid is every bit as divine as feeling abundant. And it's not until we can recognize that and fully embody and live that we can use those lower base energy emotions and alchemize them into the heart to make us incredibly abundant and powerful. Over the last 4 years in my life, I've been through this process step by step by step, using specific tools and meditations and spiritual practices that were given to me at the times that I needed them to bring myself up from being completely run by anxiety and dealing with suppressed anger and overwhelming guilt, little by little by little, learning how to work with those things, integrate those things, and bring them up into the heart. How to alchemize for a much greater experience of peace and bliss. An expanded consciousness where I now understand I can feel fear and I can feel the bliss at the same time. I can be a container for all of it. And this is what a spiritual awakening is all about. It's about the growth of the consciousness to contain and embrace the human experience. It's about becoming stable and strong in the core of who you are, so that life's challenges and human emotions don't sway you as much. You can just observe them and experience them and embrace them and still be incredibly expansive, powerful, and joy-filled. I am so incredibly passionate about helping people to expand their consciousness. And I've been wanting to do this for a long time, but it's taken me 4 years to get the podcast to the place where it really has become a well-oiled machine, and I can take a little bit of time away from it and focus on other projects. I have 2 things to offer you today. The first is a community group, Love Covered Life Community, where every month I'm going to be sharing tools from my life, things that have worked for me, meditations that I've created to help you on your journey. We can interact with each other on a daily basis to share our spiritual journeys together. And finally, I'm going to be going live in this group once a month to answer your questions and connect with you on a more personal level. As time goes on, I would even like to bring in some of the guests from the podcast to interact with us in live streams and share with us. So you can find the link to Love Covered Life Community Group here or in the description. We are launching May 1st, and the second offering I have for you today is an 8-week intensive course for anybody who wants to go really deep with me, where I will be sharing all the same information but in an accelerated version, where we will be working together every week, diving deep, and I will be guiding you through the natural progression of a spiritual awakening from the root center up into the heart. Again, I'm going to be offering tools that have worked for me, meditations that have worked for me. We'll have a community group where we can interact, and I'll be going live for this course every week to connect with you. I'm calling this course Alchemy because that's what it's all about. It's about taking you from feeling stuck, limited, lacking, disempowered into a profound opening of the heart in which manifestation happens easily and naturally within 8 weeks. So if you are ready to change your life, check here for the link or check the description box for the link and sign up. I am offering a 10% discount for anybody who signs up by Friday, April 26th. I am so excited to finally have some time in my career to connect with you on a deeper level, to get to know some of you and develop relationships with you and offer these things that I'm so passionate about. Guys, I love the podcast. I absolutely love connecting with guests. I absolutely love putting the spiritual information out there. But my true passion is to go deep into spiritual integration and embodiment. Because it's one thing to have the information, to listen to a podcast and hear the information, but it's a completely different thing to apply it, to integrate it, to say, how can I actually take this information and make it work for me and make it actually shift my consciousness? And that's what the community group is about. That's what this 8-week course is about. And I would love to see you there. Alchemy is starting June 3rd, Monday, June 3rd, and it will run through Friday, July 29th. If you sign up by Friday, May 26th, you'll get a 10% discount. I cannot wait to see you there.